I think it should be intelligence and character. I think you should be able to understand the world around you and understand who you are and your purpose and try to make the world a better place. I think that it has to be a mix of the skills, memorizing the formulas, understanding the world around you, but then also what to do with it.
And just to go off that, the idea that education, you have to balance the importance of memorizing the quadratic formula while simultaneously addressing social and political issues respectively. So children have both the know-how, general knowledge, and also kind of self-awareness and character so they're able to develop their own opinions.
Yeah, I think that the purpose of education is to understand the world that you exist in and use that understanding as a means for creating change or even understanding yourself on a deeper level.
I believe the purpose is simply just to prepare the individual to be successful in the society that they exist in.
Critical thinking, learn how to live out your full potential so you can be independent, and everything else really flows from there.
The purpose of education is to prepare children for the real life and also make sure that they are literate.
So I think the purpose is to raise the next generation of leaders. And when you think about what you want your leaders to be like, you want them to be knowledgeable, and you want them to be compassionate, you want them to be self-aware, you want them to understand the best way to move forward, not just for themselves personally, but for their whole community.
And that's I think she had the most honest answer, right? Because essentially that's how they view these kids. Oh my God, these are going to be the future politicians and people of our country. Let me impress upon them now my ideas, my thoughts, my beliefs, right? And that's essentially used to be the job of the parents. And this is what I'm saying. I think it took a long march through the institutions. It took a long time for our culture to come to the point where parents see it as normal to, okay, our kids hit a certain age, out of the house you go. And I think it's a lot of this stuff about, critical thinking, and they come to their own independent conclusions. I think that's a lie. I don't think people actually come to conclusions independently, because at the end of the day, you don't come to conclusions without help, without guidance, right? Like I said, I always make the argument with the IQ stuff. If I get a guy with high IQ and I feed him wrong information from 7 years old to 18, and I get a lower IQ person and I fed him good information from 7 to 18, who's going to be, and I had them to debate about general issues, who's going to come out looking smarter? The person that has the good information, because good information is what? Credible, demonstratable, right? Falsifiable, right? You can prove, okay, hey, look, I can fudge the numbers because I know how it actually works in reality. And I think that this focus on compassion and character, I honestly believe those are like filler words. Those are a shield or a cover to hide what they're actually doing. And that is, I'm teaching a worldview to your kids, an ideology to your kids, so they come out more like me. Look at the time. I already make the stats. Parents spend on average, 50 minutes with their kids? These teachers spend 8 times longer with your kids than you do. They spend 8 times more, 8 times more time with your kids than you do. They have a heavy influence on you. Then you got social media. This is why I say parents need to take back control and be more assertive in the transmission of values to their kids, because these teachers have too much influence over our children. That's what I believe anyway. But I digress. Let's continue with the video.
When we talk about who's doing the educating, who should decide what's being taught?
Parents. I think that parents should have a huge say in what's going on in the classroom because it's their kids, not ours. As a public school teacher of 15 years, I was always aware that these are not my children. We have to make sure that we're respecting parents and their beliefs and their values.
It's called boundaries, right? And this is one thing that the left has a big issue, and this is why they get themselves in trouble, especially with this issue, is that teachers are come out here trying to challenge, like they trying to remove language, right? And this is a point that Michael Knowles make in his book Speechless. You control speech, you control thought. So they don't want kids to use parents in mom, dad, parent, guardian, whatever. They like to say caretakers. We're all caretakers here, because technically it's true. I'm a caretaker. I'm his parent. I'm a caretaker. But it's to remove that hierarchy, that level of importance from the kid's perspective. This is brainwashing tactics, right? Oh, we don't call your mom. We don't call him mom. We don't call him dad. It's the same thing with partner. Instead of calling your wife, your husband, no, that's my partner, because they want to be inclusive. These are pretexts. This is why I said, like, I think this is why I have a trust issues with these liberals, because I think a lot of their phraseology is used to try to position themselves to seem moral, to seem virtuous, to look good, but they're not actually doing good, right? I'm just saying, because the results speak for itself. The kids are not performing well in these schools, right? These kids are not, like, can't critically think. They're not very knowledgeable on a lot of subjects, but they're knowledgeable about BLM. They're knowledgeable about left-wing politics, climate change, to the point where now they got climate change anxiety. Who put the anxiety in them? Not their parents. I have a strong feeling it wasn't the parents that did that. It was that teacher they spent 8 hours a day with. And God forbid, look, bro, I don't want my kids being taught by people like that. Ideologically driven people. I don't want my kids for that. No. I trust I know my intentions with my kids. I don't know the intentions of other people with my kids. And I think it's time that parents develop a very strong skepticism about the Department of Education, teachers unions, their motives. Are they really doing things for the best interest of the child or only the best interest of themselves? It's hard to argue they're not doing things for the best interest of themselves. Heavily liberal institution. They fight for pay, even though there's no correlation that spending more money will increase the academic achievements of their students, but they're still pushing for it. Why? Who benefits from that? They do. Who benefits from your kids, your parents not knowing what's going on in their children's curriculum or what they're being taught? The parents do. The teachers do. The teachers get to teach your kid anything. They can teach your kid to be an atheist and you're a Christian. But God forbid something happened to the kid. Who's responsible for feeding that kid? Paying that kid's medical bills, right? You are, as the parent. You have the responsibility, therefore you have the authority. That's why I say a teacher is not at the same level as a parent. Because the minute ish hit the fan, it's on you. This is why I don't believe these teachers should be even talking about transgenderism or none of that with our kids. Because at the end of the day, when that kid transitioned into the opposite sex, and he find out that he can never be the opposite sex, and he's going through suicide ideation, right? He's in depression. He can't go and find that teacher who convinced him when he was 8, 9, 10 years old that he's really a girl when actually he's a boy. You have to deal with that as a parent. Therefore, it's not the teacher's call to hide important information like that. That could have a drastic, heavy impact on an individual's life. That's a parent's call. Because at the end of the day, I'm that kid's parent for life. I'm my son's father for life. Until I die, I'm that kid's father. You're his teacher, maybe for a semester. Yet I'm supposed to sit here and expect and respect that you have the same level of authority as I do in the eyes of the state. Get out of here. This is something the left better respect. They better respect the boundaries of the parents, or this can turn upside down real quick. But I digress.
I think the Constitution agrees with that.
Yes.
Here in America, ranging back to the early 1900s, plenty of Supreme Court cases have ruled in that favor that it is the parents' right ultimately to decide a child's education, medical needs, etc.
I would push back, though, and say that there does need to be collaboration, right? I completely respect your idea of it is not our job as educators to put forth a belief in front of children, right? That includes not perpetuating parents' beliefs in the classroom as well. In my opinion, that would be keeping a non-biased viewpoint, simply presenting issues, and then allowing kids to decide for themselves.
Kids don't have the life experience to decide for themselves what is correct or what is not. Right? That's what the parents are there for. I said the parents are the tutorial. When you start a game, the game kind of handhelds you through the process, and they say, okay, you got your bearings. Okay, go out and play the game. That's parenthood. My kids are going to a tutorial right now, and I'm preparing them for life. That's my job. But no, you're not supposed to teach any ideology, no worldview. It's supposed to expose them to nothing. No, that ain't your job. In my view, that's not your job, teacher. Your teacher is, hey, I got to make sure you have the skills to read. I got to make sure you have the skills to write, speak. It needs to be something tangible and measurable. That's what you're supposed to teach, teacher. Not ideas, not ideology, right? Maybe you can inform them about politics, but at the end of it, you better say, hey, talk to your parents. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to have to deal with that mess. You feed my kid false information, and then you find out you're in the wrong but you spent 8 hours with my kid. So who's gonna have more influence over my kid? Like it makes no sense, and it's not a collaborative relationship, right? It's not. I'm just being honest, because if the teacher, if the parents decide, hey, we're gonna move to Tennessee. Oh, this is a collaborative process. No, the kid's coming out of the school. It ain't no collaborative nothing. So why do you have an assumption that the teachers need the parents need to come to you and collaborate on what's going on? I believe, hey, make sure the parents are on the same page. Make sure that the parents are supporting the academic process for the child, so they can perform at their best and they have the best chance at success in schools. Hey, I'm fine with that. But it has to be clearly defined. It can't be this vague, wishy-washy. And I think parents need to stop being pushed around by these people who pry on our sympathies, on our kindness, on our pity. Oh, you people just want to be accepted. No, I think they're gonna push and push, and what Matt Walsh called it, cry bullying. They keep crying, and eventually you're gonna cry wolf a little bit too much, and parents are gonna be like, no, we're done with this. But I digress.
I would agree that I think it needs to be a collaborative effort. The way that we decide curriculum in Texas is that work groups comprised of community members, educators, parents, even in some cases students and public service officials come together to draft curriculum plans, and then it's ultimately decided on by our State Board of Education, which has a lot of kind of assistance from parents as well. So I think that kind of format can be really effective because it also empowers students to become involved in the fate of their education. And as a student myself, I think that that's incredibly important because our perspectives need to be heard as well.
The voices of parents need to be heard in that equation. But unfortunately, what we've seen recently is that parents' voices have been demonized in this process. You've seen parents who've criticized local school boards labeled terrorists simply for caring about the quality of their education that their child is receiving.
And this is where my homeschoolingness comes out, is that if you want to influence my child, it has to be with my consent. It's like, look, I'm the gatekeeper, bro. I protect my kid. I'm like, if you can't take my criticism constructively and act on it and change it, I'm gonna make changes too. And there ain't gonna be no negotiating with me. Look, I don't know. Maybe I'm harsh. I don't know what I am, but I believe in raising strong children, right? Because you don't pray for an easy life. You pray for the strength to endure a hard one. That's my philosophy, and that's what I mean. That's the values I'm gonna impart onto my kid. Not this empathy, not this kindness. Like, no one owes you anything. You're not entitled to anything. Go out there and you have to earn what you get. You don't deserve anything. You have to earn everything. That's the kind of mindset I want my kids walking around with, right? But it counters a lot against what these school board members want. When these school board members get criticized by these parents, you see them like, yeah, hurry up. We know you can't afford to go anywhere else. This is why they hate school choice, because if parents had if school choice was universal throughout the state of the United States, these school board people will be listening a lot more intently and acting on the criticism they receive from parents instead of demonizing them as terrorists. You see how they use language? Oh, you're a bad person because you go against what we think is best for your child. And that's the reality of this language. Word games. I digress, though.
These teachers are temporary caretakers. When they come back home, it's the parent who has to explain that this is this radical belief that was put in front of you. This was this idea that you've never been raised around that parent now has to explain. And at the end of the day, that isn't just confined to a classroom. Now it's bleeding into their upbringing. And there's only one person responsible for their upbringing, and it's the parents. It's not the educator, it's not the teacher, it's their parents.
I like the idea of the collaboration, and obviously parents' voices belong at that table. I also like the emphasis on students having a say in this, and also other people adults that aren't parents. I'm invested in that too, even though I don't have children of my own. And I hear what you're saying about having to, parents needing to confront or address, I guess, what kids are learning at school. But giving kids the exposure to other ideas or other things that they wouldn't be exposed to otherwise is, I think, part of what's going to help raise the next generation of.
My only problem is, what is the importance of explaining to kids that gay people exist? Let's argue the functionality of that. My kid's obviously gonna see. It's like arguing, hey, your son needs to know that black people exist. He's gonna see it out in reality. Kids are naturally curious. My son's asking about skin color right now. he said, "Daddy's brown, mommy is," and he don't know how to say white, but he that's what he's trying to insinuate. And I'm like, yeah, of course. Kids are naturally curious. He don't need to go to a school, sit down, and have someone to explain him like life. No, he's gonna walk into it.